Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking. And wow, we will be looking at today the lunar eclipse happening on the 19th of November. Now I've got loads to share because this lunar eclipse is actually conjuncting Sedna. So one thing we will be definitely speaking about, the ruler of this solar eclipse is actually out of bound. So we will be speaking about that. The ruler has got an exact trine to Uranus. So that's also something we do need to speak about. And yeah, so overall, the lunar eclipse energy is very intense this time around. Plus, also Jupiter is squaring this lunar eclipse too. So let's get started. Now, I made a short webinar. It's almost 2 hour long about what are the most important solar eclipses or lunar eclipses in your chart. So I want to show you one way how you can actually figure that out. So let me share the screen for a second. So first of all, you want to be bringing up your natal chart. Okay. And okay, so I'm going to bring up my natal chart. Right there. And what you want to do is you want to be looking at, if you don't have a program, you want to be looking at what was the previous solar eclipse or lunar eclipse when you were born, okay? Now, the webinar I made is typically about the solar eclipses because those are something to do with more life-changing events, more of an external world. The lunar eclipse will be more about our emotional shifts, but also both of them are actually very important. And you want to be looking at the solar eclipses and lunar eclipses after your birthday. Now, here you will be able to see that the nearest eclipse I had was on the 15th of December 1982, which was on 23-degree Sagittarius. Now, it would be beneficial for you to look at that as in a karmic journey for you, especially if it conjuncts, opposes, or square any of your planets within 3 to 5 degrees. So you can see that it's close by to my Neptune and the midheaven. So it's something which I have to develop in this incarnation in regards to Neptunian energies. Okay, so and then I can look at my nearest lunar eclipse, which was on 8 degree of Cancer. So you can see I've got North Node there. So how is that becoming important to me? And then you can see that the solar eclipse happened after my birthday is falling onto 19 degree of Gemini, which is bang on opposing actually my midheaven. So it's right on my IC. So that's something which is also important. And then we've got the nearest lunar eclipse after birth is 3 degree of Capricorn. So these degrees actually can be a hotspot in your chart. Now, I went into this quite in depth and I explained to you how to work with these energies. So if you are interested in that webinar, then go on my website, AstroViktor.com, and check it out. Now, it is free for my subscribers, okay? So it is free for those who have subscribed to my monthly, basically like a Patreon plan. Oh, no, AstroViktor, I wanted to type. So if you are interested in that, then just check it out and then you will be able to find, so membership zone, and then you will have all listed there what is actually available for you. There are 4 tiers, by the way, so you will be able to see those, and it comes with plenty of goodies. So just have a look at them. Great. Brilliant. So solar eclipse, I mean a lunar eclipse, let's be precise on that. So it is happening on the 19th of November. It's going to be happening on 27 degree of Taurus to 27 degree of Scorpio. So now why it is important for us, because this lunar eclipse, is actually in conjunction to one of the most malefic fixed star called Algol, and also it's conjuncting Sedna as well. So this lunar eclipse has got loads of kind of like negative qualities, unfortunately. Now, this is a partial lunar eclipse, the last one of 2021. But why it's significant for us is because this is the beginning of the Taurus-Scorpio eclipses happening the entire 2023 and 2022 and half of the year of 2023 as well. Now, this partial lunar eclipse will be visible in North and South America, some part of Australia, New Zealand, Alaska, and Japan. So therefore, these countries are affected by this partial lunar eclipse. So one thing which I would like you to actually do, if you are interested in astrology, you might want to be bringing up these charts and then having a look at how it gets affected. I'm going to bring in Japan. I'm going to speak about that. I'm going to speak about America as well, because I think it's actually very interesting. Now, it occurs, this lunar eclipse occurs actually at the moon's ascending node in Taurus, 1.7 days before the moon reaches apogee. Now, apogee, I don't think I've ever spoken about apogee on my YouTube channel yet, but the moon has got two states, and one of them is the apogee, and the other one is actually perigee. So the definition is quite simple. The apogee is the furthest from the Earth point of the moon's orbit, and the perigee is actually the closest. So now, when there is the moon in apogee or perigee, then actually it is associated with some very interesting weather conditions. So typically this is the state when some type of earthquake is actually possible. And, you know, one of those countries which I've mentioned there is actually very possible. So typically it could occur a few days before or after the perigee. So I listed here with New Zealand, America, but some European countries will be affected too. And I want to show you that too on my world map. So let me actually share the screen again. And then if you have got solar fire, what you can do is just bring up the partial lunar eclipse chart. And then you can put that onto the solar map, and then you will receive this map, okay? And then you can see that the sun line is running down there and the moon line is running. So sun and moon, because they are in opposition, right? So we're talking about a full moon. So you can see that actually it's going to be very prominent in South Africa, okay? But it's also right there in Tanzania, around Tanzania, and some Europe as well. So actually what we can do is we can click on that, right? And then we can see that it's going to be running through right here. So you can see in Romania, it's running through. So Romania will be affected by this, most probably. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit easier this way. And then you can see it's running through Helsinki as well. Bucharest is definitely impacted, and also Istanbul will be impacted pretty much too. Okay, so these European countries also affected with this lunar eclipse. So as I mentioned, these apogee and perigee is something to do with the weather conditions. Typically, if there is a first quarter moon coincides with a perigee, then that's typically about hurricanes. With lunar eclipses, it's typically about earthquakes. So we should be expecting some type of earthquakes, unfortunately, some part of the world. So that's one prediction I'd like to make here for you. Now, as I mentioned, it happens on 27 degree of Taurus. So that's going to be the third decan of the sign, and therefore it's somehow Capricorn related energies. And from a dwad perspective, that's going to be the very last one. So actually it's going to be falling into Aries dwad. So I would call this moon as a, if you start looking at, you know, what Taurus is about stability and nature. Security, your safety net. But with the Capricornian energy, it's about the safety of your workplace, for instance. And then with Aries, we just want to be standing up against something. So it's kind of like a very supercharged full moon. Typically, full moons are all about letting go, some type of closure, but because it happens in the Taurus and Scorpio axis, it does talk about some type of healings as well. Now, typically, lunar eclipses or solar eclipses indicate some type of turning points in our life, especially if you have a planet around it. I would say the most, actually plenty of signs are affected here. So the fixed signs, definitely, if you have got any planet, let's say from about 24 degree onwards, then you are affected. But even if you have got a planet early degrees of the mutable signs, so basically Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces or Virgo, let's say up to about 2 degrees, you are going to be, again, quite impacted. So because there is a Capricorn energy switched on here, I feel like it's something boiling point in regards to governmental decisions. Now, according to Moran, actually this 27 degree also falls onto Capricorn degree as well. So we've got so much Capricornian energy to it. And yeah, I feel like it's a governmental decision which people not going to be feeling too good about. Because Taurus is something to do with your value system. So it's somehow your value system is clashing with other people's value system. Taurus is a money sign. So definitely it will be affecting the financial market significantly. Typically with eclipses, you know, it can go 2 ways. Especially with a Venus out of bound, I would say probably we're going to see some heights or some extreme lows, but it's somehow never in the middle. Okay. So another thing which I think interesting about this lunar eclipse is that Venus is in the sign of Capricorn and she will be spending 4 months there. Because she will be retrograde in December. So, and then we'll be meeting Pluto, but I made a video about Venus retrograde conjunct in Pluto, so I kind of recommend doing that. So Taurus is about building things up. And of course, having Uranus around it, it's kind of like our building, our structure is a little bit shaky. So it looks to me that Uranus is kind of shaking up the cores of ourselves, and therefore it makes it very unpredictable. I feel like this lunar eclipse is very powerful cosmic opening. As I mentioned, this is the first one of the 2022 series, which we will be having. So this could show that there is going to be some type of healing. It's about releasing something which actually might have started sometimes in 2014. You might have had some type of life challenges there, or challenges or changes which you needed to overcome, because that's the last time when we had the nodal axis in the Taurus-Scorpio ways, just it was a reversed one. So in 2014, you might have had to release something financially. So now it is talking about the growth, or there is this reclaiming, gathering something energy to it. So typically, I would say with Scorpio energies, it's very much about the need to gain your power back. So where was your power given away? Did someone take that away? It's about, Taurus is about your skill set as well. So actually digging deep and then finding your own skills. And this gets highlighted in your chart. This is very much about discovering some of the maybe crisis situations in your psyche, because that's very much Scorpionic energy, the psyche, the unconscious power. Where has it got lost in a sense? And how can I build my trust towards universal flow or towards others, a person in your life, back up again? So imagine that you, for instance, this is about having a building, like a construction work, and then it's about laying the foundation down. And that's what Venus in the sign of Capricorn, as well as the lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Taurus, talk about. Now, a lunar eclipse can only occur during a full moon. So typically, the full moon is a moon phase of harvesting, fulfillment, and completion. But typically with a lunar eclipse, the moon is actually obscured, hidden, a little bit of a mysterious type of energy. So actually it could indicate that not all the things are quite as it seems like it. So therefore, lunar eclipses are associated with some type of emotional shocks and surprises. Lunar eclipses are often associated with a sudden ending, but it's always important to remember that every single ending is a beginning of something new. So, and it happens in the sign of Taurus, which is the most grounded, it's a solid earth sign. So some of the questions probably this lunar eclipse brings up to you or highlights is that, have I been lazy or have I been actually self-indulgent? And what area of life do I need to get somehow like activated? Or also it can be about, have I been stubborn or jealous or even possessive towards someone, because maybe I need to let that go off this time around? Or also, have I been too much of a comfort eating? And then I'm going to have to somehow let that go also. Or how important is my safety blanket for me? That could be another question this might bring you. Moon rules your emotions. So the lunar eclipse in Taurus kind of threatens our emotional security blanket. So am I dependent on something, or is someone dependent on me? Because whatever felt secure for you beforehand, it might not seem to be as stable or certain as it should or as you expect. And then that could be causing some type of emotional turmoil within yourself. So all lunar eclipses are all about sun and moon oppositions. And therefore, oppositions in many cases relates to relationship matters also. So what is my relationship to money? And then what is my relationship to other people's money? Or what is my value versus what is other people's value? And then how I should be actually having a balance within that. So with this lunar eclipse, there is so much about structure or dependability, certainty, security questions which are propping up. And probably the Scorpio side says that we do need to transform something there. Sometimes we are even forced to do so. Sometimes it becomes painful and traumatic. The sun in Scorpio is definitely encourage you to look at the darker side of your life. Look at your fears, work towards your, work against your shadow self. And looking at, what is the one which is actually holding me back? Why am I not using my own talent? Why am I not treating nature as it should be treated? Now, remember that we do need to be focusing on the moon here quite significantly. And the moon is about being happy. Moon is about basically the kind of like, how can I gain emotional fulfillment? And being in the sign of Taurus is like the goddess of speed, a goddess of peace. And it's very earthy, it's very grounded. It wants simplicity in life. So it's about comfort, food, sensual moments, sexual moments, and so forth. You know, so it might bring up things like, can I actually have fun? Can I not have fun? Can I eat that? So Taurus is always asking about practical questions. How is the peace and the quietness come together? So with this lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus can actually talk to you about listening to some music, for instance, or learning ways to calm down. And for instance, it might be just a massage. What are you calming? What calms you down, basically? Now, also worth happened to look at what was going on in your life approximately, as I said, 2014, but also about 19 years before. So we're looking at sometimes in 2002, 2003 as well. It might be important to reconnect with nature. Try to have a little bit of a stressful day, or at least a stressful couple of weeks, less stressful couple of weeks. It's about following your natural rhythm. Don't allow anyone to kind of push you, because it can make you frazzled, overwhelmed, but open up to new possibilities. It's not necessarily about resisting to change. You need an environment where you don't need to be impressing others, or your home just need to reflect sincerity and coziness. Having pets actually could be helping here. The home to be inviting and comfortable. Maybe you need an oversized chair or a new cozy blankets. All those type of things. Very possible. Now, because it's a full moon and that's relationship related, this full moon is looking for loyalty. It has got a strong desire to have a stable life. It wants to be enjoying the finer side of life, or just snuggling up on a couch with a loved one. And maybe the partner is actually at work, and then your desire is not getting met somehow. Taurus wants someone who is quite independent, and they have got the ability to look after themselves. So it might bring up the question, you know, is my partner depending on me? Do I have to pick up the dirty socks, or do I have to make dinner every single day? Because, you know, that's something which this full moon is not really associated with. The negative side of this is that we can feel emotionally drained, and then we can easily shut down. Or when we feel rushed, they just somehow want life to stop for a minute to catch their breath. Sometimes the favorite word for Taurus becomes the no during lunar eclipses, and then we start building up some type of defense mechanism. Of course, Taurus is very materialistic, so, and it's not necessarily about greediness. It's just the way how Taurus actually feels secure. So therefore, you know, this might be actually telling you that it's time to stop collecting things, like having that hoarding style. Because Taurus moon is all about wanting to own things. So it becomes a little bit possessive. But the sun is actually telling you that something needs to be let go of. So actually that might be something you want to be mindful about. This lunar period shrouds the truth as well, because Scorpio is about secrets. So some secret will come to light. Somehow, once the truth actually emerges, it might rock your foundation. And So that's why I kind of feel like there is going to be somewhere an earthquake going on, because you get shaken up in the core, and then it makes you some type of, it makes you very emotional. So it is asking you to have an emotional transformation going on also. So this lunar eclipse is a heavy one. Now, some of the aspects which this lunar eclipse will be making is actually a square to Jupiter. And with Jupiter, we tend to be having this extravagant nature. So, so we can overdo things with Jupiter. It has got that greedy quality to it, or it's just re-emphasizes all those security questions what I have mentioned for you. So imagine like with Jupiter, when you are actually blowing up a balloon, and then you are stretching as far as you can before actually blows out. Now, because Venus is out of bound, it's actually very possible that you know, you're gonna stretch yourself too far. And therefore, that's where the overindulgence could be coming into the picture. You know, it definitely brings in topics like well-being. It definitely brings up some of the excess which we tend to be doing in regards to food, alcohol, or drugs. Now, Jupiter is in the sign of Aquarius, so it's something to do with the social distancing. With this square to Jupiter can actually bring very changeable moods, or our taste can actually change significantly as well. Even we can lower our standards because we feel this social type of pressure from others around us. And are you going to be letting go of your values, or are you going to actually hold on to them very strongly? But some type of embarrassment and scandal is kind of getting exposed here. With Jupiter, we tend to be sometimes way too optimistic, or we are way overconfident. And then that can lead to some type of unwanted repercussions. So something around your moral codes will be tested with this full moon significantly. Now, as I said, this lunar eclipse on 27 degrees of Taurus is very close to the fixed star called Algol. So the lunar eclipses in Taurus actually can signify major changings, turning points for the things which we have been assuming unchangeable, or, you know, we feel very strongly about it. But at the same time, Algol actually is something which is talking about, you know, it's a malefic fixed star. So it talks about things like the Medusa's head, which gets cut off at certain points. Now, typically, it doesn't mean that we're going to have to be afraid that our head is going to get chopped off. So I'd like to point that out. But it does talk about things like where it brings some type of dishonor to situations, or it makes some type of chaotic moments. It does talk about death by decapitations. It talks about things like that we are not mortal anymore, and then we can die at any point. So some fear can be coming up with this Algol conjunction to this lunar eclipse. It is a violent star. It has got a violent nature, so it could actually lead to some type of death to people. So I'm guessing some of the death numbers will be increasing significantly. Also, this lunar eclipse chart, actually, it is highlighting the Mars-Uranus opposition also. And that is talking about sudden changes. That is talking about the release of destructive energies, like the earthquakes, for instance, in nature. So it's something which is going to be popping up, and maybe it's a secret which is going to be popping up very suddenly, and it's going to be just like shaking the core foundation of yours. Mars-Uranus opposition, we do need to be careful with that, because it could cause the outburst of anger, and then we can actually direct that anger onto others as well. And then it can lead to resentments, and it might be something which have been building up for a while. And you cannot really resist the temptation anymore. You just go on an attack, or you lash out easily. So there is this impulsive quality to that. Taurus is actually very traditional sign in a sense, but Uranus and Mars opposition says that, you know, I'm just disregarding the traditions. I just want to be breaking free. I don't want responsibilities. I don't want any obligations anymore. So explosiveness is very much around with this lunar eclipse. The reason why we do need to look at Mars-Uranus opposition, because Mars rules the sun this time around. So we've got two co-rulers here, and that one of them is the Mars, and the other one is actually Venus. So, you know, somehow you feel pressure on your tangible values. Taurus is an economical sign, so the economy and businesses seem to be shaken up. So it might be affecting the real estate or currencies, or you might see that the currencies will significantly drop, or they lose their values. But Taurus actually could talk about the farmland, lands, or food and crops. Overall, the agricultural type of situations. So agricultural problems might get highlighted with this lunar eclipse. Now, the fixer Algol, as I mentioned, it usually comes with some type of violence. So imagine, actually, I can imagine that people are going to be rushing to the shops again to buy as much food as possible. So Algol typically leads to some type of dramatic developments, and then it can go to the extremes, and it can be very destructive as well. So drama is in the air. Now, the Mars-Uranus opposition actually falls onto the western coast of Turkey. So maybe, and then Ankara as well. So maybe we will be seeing some type of frustration and outburst of anger over there. Furthermore, this Uranus Mars opposition will be very visible around Berlin and Rome as well. So that's another possibility where we might be feeling this very strongly. So actually, I can imagine that the eruptions are happening there, or some type of social movements altogether, but that's very possible. Now, the Venus, the ruler of this lunar eclipse, is closely connected to this eclipse because it's the ruler, right? And it's in the sign of Capricorn. Now, mentioned at the beginning, but Venus will be spending here 4 months, and it's going to go retrograde a month later. But this Venus is actually out of bound. So out of bound Venus is like having a conjunction to Uranus. So for Venus in the sign of Capricorn, we would say that, you know what, it's quite a traditional one. It's more about, yeah, I'm going to be wearing black dresses and so forth. Björk has this constellation, but actually an out of bound Uranus, it's not going to wearing just black and all these type of colors. So this Venus being out of bound is kind of like things are going to the extremes, and it's trining Uranus as well at the same time. So it's very much about an urge to try something new. And it could be from anything to do with your hobbies to romance. It could be about that I'm just feeling the need to go on a shopping spree, for instance, and then I need to buy whatever I see there. This aspect could actually bring you on a personal level a sudden relationship into your life as well, or just some pleasurable moments. But Venus in Capricorn is all about, I want to be enjoying some type of structure. Now, with out of bound and trying to Uranus, well, we are rebellious about that structure. So it's very much about experimenting how much I can stretch things and how far I can go. For instance, in the bedroom or in the society, it doesn't really matter. Uranus being out of, Venus being out of bound, we're trying to Uranus actually is a little bit of a kinky type of aspect. So that's kind of important to mention here. Now, if you don't know what an out-of-bound planet is, there is a video available on my YouTube channel, but very shortly is about when its declination is more than 23.27 degree. So it shakes up the relationship, it shakes up your tastes, it shakes up your personal values. And of course, Venus is something to do with your financial standing. So I think it will be affecting the financial market very significantly. Great. So furthermore, speaking about Venus being out of, Venus having this energy to Uranus, you know, you might just want to be very eccentric with that overall. So, but I also believe, because Venus is in the sign of Capricorn, it's something to do with the morality and satisfaction of people, and it could be in jeopardy. So Venus will be in conjunction to Pluto quite a long time. So that will definitely intensify that Venus is something which wants to be not agreeing to things, because Venus is about negotiations. And I think it's going to be affecting the global economy and the business overall very significantly. Now, I did look at America's chart, so I looked at Washington a little bit, and it's going to be highlighting the 2nd and the 8th house there. So that could be bringing fluctuations and volatility in money markets and the banking industries in general. But overall, this could be about the rentals and the real estate market, the property as an asset. So what I have got in the banks, what I don't have in the banks, that could be actually there. And then Mars can actually bring sudden ups and downs with this Uranus opposition for the markets, or something to do with mortgages, credit ratings of the institutions. That might be very highlighted there. I've also seen that Venus will, this eclipse is going to be happening on Venus-Neptune midpoint. Venus is on Neptune and the ascendant midpoint. Now, Neptune is something to do with confusion, and the ascendant is something to do with your body. So overall, what I feel about this Neptune and ascendant midpoint, that it's very much about, you know, like what type of impressions we are making. It's about illusions and deceptions of the senses. So what you see is actually not happening, and what you don't believe is actually happening. So it talks about like insincere people, liars, crooks. So there is some type of sensitivity around this to secrets, lies, betrayal. So we can talk about some of the abuse as well, or the betrayal of your own confidence, or you just experience some type of falsehood with this. So something which might be actually relating to disappointment. The ascendant is the body, so we do need to be careful when it comes to things like illnesses as well. So overall, what are you holding on to? What needs to be released? in the scorpionic parts of your chart. And of course, as I mentioned, the safety and the security matters are very much highlighted here. So that's something I'd like you to be remembering. This lunar eclipse is kind of like an unbound desire. It has got that little bit of a curiosity going on with that. So how much I can stretch myself. Lunar eclipse is typically about breaks in your usual patterns. Something which was available for you, but now it's not available. And with the Algol energy, it brings in concerns, fears, kind of like an obsessive creative output here. But Algol is also associated with the raw feminine power. So moon being on Algol, the ruler is Venus, some type of energy around raw feminine power is very much there. Now, also I mentioned that moon conjunct Sedna. So Sedna was a beautiful young girl living at the home of her father, and then a man came to court her, and then he appeared to be the ideal man. He had good manners, he had a stable job, he had a good appearance as well. So eventually she married him. But instead of a lovely home, she was put in a cold hut, actually which smelled of fish. And this guy turned into a monster. Now she tried to run away back to her father, but this husband had godlike powers, and he stirred up a wind on the boat. And then the father was very afraid of losing her daughter. So he tried to actually help her by swimming there. But then Sedna saw her father escaping and tried to swim up to the boat. And then her father cut off her fingers as he tried to climb in. And then she fell to the bottom of the sea. And then she died. And that's how she became the goddess of the sea. So Sedna is something which is very much associated with transformation on one hand. It's also, she was a very spoiled child, by the way, and it's also associated with like bird flu, but the global warming also comes into the picture, or it could actually indicate wrong marriage. So somehow the marriage might be something which is actually highlighted with this lunar eclipse. But from a political standpoint of view, Sedna talks about corruption and lies and economic and social upheavals overall, like profit made illegally or unethically, or wealth made from the poor and taking advantage of the weak. But Sedna is also pornography, violent video games. So actually, it's very possible that there is going to be some type of legislation with the Jupiter square to violent video games or something around the pornography. Or Sedna can represent drugs and prostitutions, products that promote violence or emotionless sex. So maybe we're going to see some type of changes around that. Kind of Sedna has got a little bit of a positive meaning to it as well, because it talks about a road of disappointment before actually you find peace. And it is a asteroid which connects to financial matters, prosperity, but usually that comes just with plenty of emotional turmoil. So Sedna is about not necessarily following what the society says, not necessarily wanting to be rich because that's what the society talks about. It talks about the inner truth and the heart desire. So jobs related to Sedna is spirituality, marine, ocean-related jobs, and the financial markets. So again, one indication that the financial markets will have a significant changes overall with this lunar eclipse, but I think it's only the start of it. We might be just seeing that 18 months later. So it's worth having a look at, from a history point of view, what was going on in the financial market, for instance, in 2002, 2003, because that's when we had the last lunar eclipse happening there. Well, pretty much, I think we summarized what this lunar eclipse is about. So I hope you like the video and then it helps you to prepare for the upcoming energies. Thank you, everyone, and see you very shortly. Bye-bye.